What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about MicroStrategy today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. Here we are, you guys, at $319, and man, this thing is just not cooperating with anything. It gives us all kinds of, whoa, that's not what I meant to do. It's giving us false signals left and right, man, of ready to go higher, ready to go lower. This bounce off the 40, not reaching to the 50, not getting above, not seeing something productive. It can turn a really positive moment into a rather negative one, right? This does make me wonder if we're going to go below this low with MSTR. You know, after all, we have these lower highs, lower lows here. Could we go lower? I think it's possible, and maybe let's entertain that idea, right? And in fact, let's look at the 1 hour time frame before we really go any further with this. So here you've got lower lows in your price, higher lows in the RSI, so that is hidden bullish divergence. Moving down, volume's dying, so I think we really could actually have a bounce here, not going to lie. 3 hour time frame, same thing, bullish divergence there. We could go lower too, but let's look at what you're doing on the fibs as well. Let's see. Low to high here. You're in the golden ratio. Oh man, it's hard. This is hard for me to call for you to go lower. If you go lower, I'm fairly confident now, at least. I don't think we go below that low. But we could go lower, you know, in the sense that maybe we go to 307 or even just below 300 at 296 there. That's very possible. What's the call to put ratio doing? What are we doing here? Where's our max pain at? Is this the right week too? I think it is the right week. Yeah, 3 days. Max pain's basically at the current price, or it's a little bit higher actually. Oh wow, so there's more shorts that would get hurt if we were to go higher than there are puts, or than there are calls to get hurt if we go lower. That's interesting. What about open interest? Let's see here. Yeah. A lot of calls, man, a lot of calls. Call interest, that's crazy. There's 0.57 calls, or that's the call ratio is 0.57. There's a lot more calls than there are puts. I don't know how that works, man. How are there more calls than puts? But max pain, I suppose then, right, the reason why max pain is basically at this price is maybe because these puts are at lower prices. There can be more calls than puts, right? And all those calls can be above this price, but a lot of the puts can be at lower prices still. So I guess that makes sense. This is nice, seeing a pretty even ratio. I got to say, you guys, what's nice is that this one here, next week's put to call ratio keeps climbing up, and that's good. We want a positive ratio. It's pretty neutral right now, but we want that positive ratio. So either, I think what I'm looking at here is actually some calls got taken off. Some puts got put on as well, but I think if you look at yesterday's video, I'm sure some calls got taken off from that as well. If not, there's more puts being put on than there are calls. And then here, still negative ratio. It could be next week that we start moving up. So here we are. Now we're not on the screen of burning retinas. Here we are on Tuesday looking for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to come into effect. It's looking like we're going to have a bearish end to this week. I suspect that tomorrow we could reach for 307 to 296 unless Bitcoin starts to do something with itself, unless it starts to move up, which it could. It's very possible. You know, if we're looking at the RSI, to be completely fair, this is a nice area to bounce. That's a lot of volume there, and you didn't go lower. You actually held your ground and found support at an area you've been finding support. I don't know. Maybe Bitcoin moves up, and in which case MicroStrategy would move up too. It's hard to say, man. This thing, again, and maybe it's hard to analyze because Bitcoin is the dictator. So no matter what the readings are saying here, it's really all just onto Bitcoin. I don't know. But as of this right now, what this looks like to me is it looks like it wants to go lower. If it were to go lower, taking Bitcoin out of the equation, if it were to go lower, I would expect prices around 307 to 296, somewhere in that area. And that likely happens by the end of this week. That's maybe even the move that's saved for the end of the week. And then starting next week, I think we would recover. Next week, unfortunately, is starting to look like the week that we will be at these 400 and above targets. Next week is likely when we're going to get there. By the end of this week, I suspect that we'll be closer to 300 than we will be to 400. If before the stock market opens in the next like 12 hours or so, if Bitcoin can move up quite a bit, quite a considerable amount, you know, if we're back above 98K, then I suppose MicroStrategy wouldn't go lower. The lower targets for the end of this week would be taken off the table, but I still don't think we're going to move up to above 400. My best guess would be if we were to move up from here instead, you know, 371, 370, somewhere around that area might be where we are by the end of this week. week, and that could gear us up for higher targets next week still. But you know, we'll see. Time will tell. It's been a very, very, very boring past couple of weeks, my friends. Since January 27th, we've been in this little box here between $347 and $320, between like $350 and $320 essentially, since January 27th. It's February 11th now, right? Very boring, very hard to decipher, but I'm sure at some point we're going to break out one way or another. If it's to the downside, it'll be less than it would be if it was to the upside. If it's to the downside, it'll be a little bit, and then we're going to move up. We're going to see prices that are above this on our way to $1,000. Unfortunately, instead of the end of February, it's looking like these are targets that'll be reserved for sometime in March. But I'm very confident that we are moving up to $1,000 still. I think if you're just patient, it's going to pay off. 319 now. Potentially a little bit lower tomorrow, unless Bitcoin can pick up the slack within the next 12 hours. If Bitcoin by market open is at, I would say, 98K or higher, MicroStrategy probably doesn't go down. It probably moves up. And if not, if Bitcoin's at these prices a little bit higher or a little bit lower by the time MicroStrategy opens, I would think that we are moving down. Those targets around 300, if not just below 300, would be likely where we go to. And then from there, going into next week, I think we'll begin our onslaught to the upside, guys. It's overdue. It's long overdue, but we're almost done with this range, okay? This range of defiance, all right? It's been very, very stagnant, very still, volatile at times too, right? A little bit volatile, but for the most part, it's been rather boring. The boring times are about to come to an end. We're just waiting on good old Mac Daddy Bitcoin to start pumping, and once that happens, Michael Saylor's going to let this thing rip. I got nothing else for you guys. If you like the video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I like the weekly RSI. I like this. Bouncing off the 50 would be a good look, though where we're at does suggest that we could come lower to close the week down here. It wouldn't surprise me. The more I look at this chart, the more I want to call for prices to be around 300, if not just below 300. But when I look at Bitcoin, it makes it a little more complicated. But we'll see. I don't know. Take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.